So, a firestorm around a Boston University research paper has exposed dangerous gaps in public oversight of the type of research that has the potential to spark new pandemics. So, the controversy began when the UK's Daily Mail reported on a public preprint describing BU research that took the spike protein from the highly contagious Omicron variant of COVID-19 and attached it to the more virulent earlier iteration of the virus known as the Washington State variant or the wild type. Now, we covered this controversy earlier this week, but since then, BU has really dug in, and it's worth examining their response because it's a window into how unresponsive some in the scientific community have been to the public's very real concerns about the safety and wisdom of some of this research. So the researchers infected 10 mice with the newly created virus. 8 of them died. After the news broke, the public controversy took an unusual turn with unexpectedly sharp public comments made by officials from Anthony Fauci's NIH division, NIAID, directed toward the researchers. The agency told Stat News they would have reviewed the research had they been alerted to it and that a probe was now underway. BU responded with a public statement that rejected the notion that the researchers had any obligation to alert the agency and said that while NIAID was thanked for support of research that built the groundwork for this project, this particular research wasn't directly funded by NIH, therefore, there was no disclosure requirement. Now, the extent of the misleading information included in Boston University's defense of its research and its lack of transparency serves as evidence that the public health community either does not recognize the severe blow its credibility has taken the past 2 years or feels that it is immune from that loss of credibility. A closer look at the statement reveals the distance still left to go to regain trust and guarantee a safer research environment. So let's take it piece by piece. So the statement's first claim is this. They say, first, this research is not gain-of-function research, meaning it did not amplify the Washington State SARS-CoV-2 virus strain or make it more dangerous. In fact, this research made the virus replicate less dangerous. Now that, according to Dr. Mark Lipsitch, who is director of Harvard's Center for Communicable Disease Dynamics, is preposterous. BU's claim that the new virus is, quote, less dangerous is a reference to the fact that the original virus killed 10 of 10 mice, while the lab-created virus killed just 8 of 10 infected mice. But the key there is that the mice were deliberately infected. So while the pathogen was slightly less lethal in mice, the expected result of attaching the more effective Omicron spike protein to the Washington State virus would be to make the original virus more infectious. If many more people or mice get infected, that result overwhelms the tiny decline in case fatality rate. So here's Lipsitch. These are unquestionably gain-of-function experiments. The wild-type backbone virus gains immune escape from the insertion of the Omicron spike in ways that the paper describes in detail. That is gain-of-function. Now, because the research was being done on viruses already in circulation around the world, the risk of creating a dangerous novel virus was actually kind of low. But the false claims from BU are important because they reflect on the inability of researchers to self-regulate, Lipsitch noted, which means the government needs to step in with more rigorous oversight. He said, quote, the statement from BU is disturbing in several ways. First, it denies that this is gain-of-function. It is gain-of-function. If meant sincerely, this is disturbing from the institution that did the research because it provides prima facie evidence that institutions are not equipped to self-regulate, unquote. So next, BU makes the following claim. Secondly, the research was reviewed and approved by the Institutional Biosafety Committee, which consists of scientists as well as local community members. The Boston Public Health Commission also approved the research. Okay, but in fact, according to a BPHC spokesperson, the researchers submitted their proposal and it was approved by the Public Health Commission in March 2020. Now, of course, there was no Omicron in March 2020. Therefore, quite simply, the research that was actually performed was not, in fact, approved ahead of time. Various experts have made this point publicly, though there's no need for me to quote them here. We all understand, at least on a very elementary level, the nature of time. Now, Boston University's statement then explains why it was not required to inform NIH of what it was up to. We fulfilled all required regulatory obligations and protocols. Following NIAID's guidelines and protocols, we did not have an obligation to disclose this research for 2 reasons. The experiments reported in this manuscript were carried out with funds from Boston University. NIAID funding was acknowledged because it was used to help develop the tools and platforms that were used in this research. They did not fund this research directly. NIH funding was also acknowledged for a shared instrumentation grant that helps support the pathology studies. We believe that funding streams for tools do not require an obligation to report, unquote. Okay, but according to the BU researchers preprint, they said, quote, this work was supported by Boston University startup funds, National Institutes of Health, NIAID grants, and then they list the grant numbers. And then the paper also acknowledges support from the Boston University Clinical and Translational Science Institute, and they list the grant number for that as too. So that's 5 grants. Now, microbiologist Richard Ebright noted that of the 5 grants acknowledged, only 2 were for equipment and 3 were for research. One grant provided $750,000. Another one gave CTSI $4.6 million for clinical research, clinical trials, and supportive activities. And the third gave $437,000 for research titled Regulation of Host Innate Immunity Against Viral Infection, unquote. So even setting aside the dubious argument that public funding of the tools used to do research doesn't entitle the same public to knowledge of what research is being done, and setting aside the false claim that no gain of function was involved, even on its own terms, the BU claim that only tools were funded is called into question by those 3 grants. After I sent those grants to BU, Rachel Cavalario, a BU spokesman, told me, quote, the link you shared is a different paper research and is the tools and platforms referenced. But as Lipsitch explained, if the research grants don't describe the precise research in question, that fact should not get BU off the hook, but instead that fact is actually evidence of the way the system is broken and in need of reform. The second reason they cite as excusing them from reporting obligations is a repeat of the claim that no gain of function was involved. We already dealt with that claim. Let's stipulate what a lot of virologists are saying.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.